Hi, welcome to the Simply Slay Life podcast. I'm Rochelle, affectionately known as Shell, and this is a channel where we're unlocking women's full potential and helping them thrive. This is also a channel that I'm creating to make it a safe space where we can talk about different themes to help us grow and succeed in our community. Today I have a guest. This is Annalise. You may recognize her. She was previously on another episode of my podcast called Dream Deferred But Not Denied, and where she was moving into another realm after her retirement of acting that she was going back to. But previously, her career before that was 27 years as an educator in the public school systems. So today I have her here so that she can discuss how to be prepared as parents dealing with MAGA educators. And so we're going to have an in-depth conversation of things you may want to be aware of, things that you may want to look at, and how it can be perceived or come across in the educational system. So I hope y'all enjoy our conversation, and we're going to jump right into it. So thank you, first of all, Annalise, for joining us. And so I wanted to I asked you here so that I can get some information that we kind of have talked back and forth on about how people that have went to that side of, yes, we have regular Democrats, regular Republicans, and then you have the MAGA or MAGA Republicans, and how that affects us in our community in education. And with 27 years in education, and I thought that you might be a good person to have this discussion with if you either recognize or can give us ideas or things to look at that might help the parents out there when dealing with their children's education. So the first thing I wanted to ask you was, how do you think political ideologies, including MAGA beliefs, influence the classroom dynamics and student learning?
I think one of the things that we have to remember that in having a teacher in front of the classroom is teacher expectation, student achievement. Students perform based upon the expectations of the teachers. So if teachers expect a great deal from their students, then the students will try and rise to that occasion. If teachers have preconceived notions about abilities of students, then their expectations are lower and their teaching methods are usually lower. And so the students do not perform as well.
Okay.
So in essence, what we then see is we see a lot of students who are not performing at grade level, which is kind of sad because they can perform. But if you have this issue compounded from elementary school through middle school, then it's pretty hard to capture them at high school.
Okay. So is that in general, would you contribute that to like poor teaching standards, or are you seeing it, or have you seen it when it's affecting more, MAGA educators, or is it a combination of both, or have you seen a rise in like they're not taking them where they could be because of this political scene?
I'm gonna say I think the bias against certain students happen in some classrooms before MAGA was a movement. I think it was there.
Okay.
And it's the expectations, and the expectations are born out of what you think about your students and what your abilities. And what MAGA has revealed is this movement has revealed that there are people that don't think that you are capable of having, like if someone is saying these people are low IQ individuals, well, if you're saying they're low IQ individuals, then your expectation is then how can I expect them to perform at this level if they are born with low IQ?
Okay.
So that's how it impacts them in the classroom. I think that what MAGA has done is they have found their brethren in this. Whereas, decades ago, there may have been isolated pockets of teachers that had low expectations for certain children without any evidence to the fact. But now they've found brethren and they kind of reinforce the idea. Oh yeah, I can't get mine to do anything.
Okay. I understand that. So they've kind of already made their minds up, but it made it more exude, where it's more like pronounced now with the definition of MAGA. What they may have already had a preconceived notion, and it just amplified it under this. Okay, so I understand that. So now, have you ever observed in all your years of education any instances where historical events, social issues, or current affairs were taught with a clear ideological slant?
There are some teachers that want to gloss over parts of history.
Okay.
As a history teacher myself, I taught AP World History, AP US History, United States History and Government. History, when you're teaching history, you're teaching facts. I mean, part of the skills of a historian is being able to distinguish between facts and opinions. And unfortunately, some teachers don't like the way the facts are laid out, and even if you're just looking at primary source documents from the time period, they don't like that it paints certain people in a certain way, so they don't want to focus on that. And so they want to try and gear more towards bigger ideas or concepts of American exceptionalism or American spirit. And I'm fine with absolutely teaching American spirit, American exceptionalism, because I think other groups fit that criteria of exceptionalism very well.
Right. I also think, though, that's one of the reasons why certain states started making where they took certain things out, or they created the books, the history books, to show a skewed view because of it focuses on a certain ideology, right? And that's also why I'm a big advocate of outside of the school. Take your children to the library. Get them books that talk about, even as from little kids.
Absolutely.
Talk about us or other cultures in the light that they were created to be,
Right.
Because they're not, right now they're moving toward, they're not trying to teach that in school. They are only acting like we didn't do anything major, and along with other cultures didn't do anything major, like they're the only ones that did anything right. Versus you can go to the library, you can go to the used bookstore, you can even if you have the online thing where if you're not having paper books, but you can get it on your online, like iPad, Kindle, tablet, whatever, and they can see the books about the women that built helped NASA and things like that. So
one of the things I would say is I think part of the backlash against education, I think that as society as a whole was becoming more global in nature, that we no longer just relied on books.
Right.
So now we had websites, we had online museums, we had all of these other accesses to knowledge, and kids were beginning to learn about things that weren't taught in the 60s, 70s, 80s, perhaps even the 90s. And so I think that then people began to say that is woke in the curriculum. No, it's just that this one book just told one side of the story.
Right.
Now that we have all of access to all of the knowledge, then now we get to see a fuller picture that is not shaped by one narrative.
Right.
And so that's what I think I see as the backlash. And I don't think it has to be that way. And I think one of the things that I would say as an American history teacher is we have to recognize that lots of different groups have contributed
Right.
to what people around the world consider great Americans.
Right. Which is one of our superpowers. It's the
Right.
stuff that we have contributed throughout history
Right.
that has helped other countries.
Right.
When I went abroad for my vacation and I was in Malaysia, our tour guide was telling the story of the reason that their flag was made, it has red, white, and blue in it,
Mm-hmm.
is because they looked at as America
Mm-hmm.
as that they were under oppressed by the British, because Malaysia was under British rule at one point in time too, and they defended their rights to get their democracy, and they wanted to be like America, and that's why they made their flag colors red, white, and blue in it.
Right.
And he was like, and we're the ultimate, to them when they look at us, we're the ultimate melting pot, that everybody
Right.
could come here and create something and be something, and
Right.
that's what they look at. And so I think that's what everybody contributes when they come here. It's
Right.
not just focused on only one group can contribute or only one group did anything. Everybody played a part somewhere down the line.
America is an idea.
Right.
American is an idea, and the idea of America is based upon our founding documents.
Right.
This is what's so hard about people saying "Make America Great Again," and they couldn't really pinpoint. Well, when did you think it was great, or when did you think it was great?
Right.
When it's the idea of America that's great.
Right.
The idea that all men are created equal, and that we have certain unalienable rights. The idea of the American dream, meaning you can be self-determined, you can decide your fate, you can leave your home country and become an American.
Right.
And you work hard, you can get a piece of land, you can get a house, you can have a family, you can have enough food to eat, and everyone wants pretty much at least that part of the American dream.
Right.
And that applies across the board. So
Right.
and throughout history, what you see is marginalized groups continue to try and fight for the dream, because some feel like there's not enough to go around.
Right.
If I let you have some, that means that was mine, and that's not the case.
Right.
Everyone can go out and fight for their piece of the dream.
Right. And that's what educators should be teaching their students and contributing to education.
Right.
I know a lot of places have moved away also from having the textbook. You'd be lucky if you get a worksheet to be able to, to teach your kids at school. And if they get homework, you're doing good. So, but I think in that, 45, 50 minutes they're in that classroom, you need to be interacting. You need to be, let's talk about this. What do you think this is? Why do you think that? Make it work on both sides and not just drilling something into them. And have you seen that, or have you heard of other instructors or educators talking like that, where people have said, have you noticed the way that they seem to teach is kind of like skewed or one-sided? Or
I will say, when you move away from textbooks, first of all, some textbooks, especially a lot of schools have kind of moved away from textbooks because one, it's static, and history is continually changing, knowledge is continually changing. But like I said, it only tells one side of the story.
Right.
So when you're kind of relying on a teacher to create presentations based upon a standard, then whatever pieces they bring in
Right.
could be skewed.
Oh.
Now, I'm gonna say I think there are not that many. I think where you get into it, I think the knowledge itself presented is probably general in nature. It's in the discussions
Okay.
that you have to listen. And I think you have to, I think as parents, helping your kids to develop those critical thinking skills.
Right.
I think, if you're talking with your kids at home about certain things and asking what they think about it, and then sometimes you don't want just that one voice in your student's head.
Right.
They should have a different kinds of voices. That's what the purpose of discussion is. But not all classes necessarily participate in discussion that way. I think there are a lot of people who have moved toward doing that for sure, in the last, I'd say 20 years for sure, in scaffolding discussion in a certain way. But I think parents would go a long way when you come home from school, oh, okay, so what are you guys studying in this class? Oh, okay, well, tell me what that's about. Oh, so well, what do you think about that? And then just kind of start seeing what your students are saying.
Yeah.
And sometimes it could just be a misunderstanding about something that went quickly by the student.
Oh, yeah.
And so you have to, as a parent, kind of make sure that you're listening.
Okay.
I would say probably the greatest thing that I think you touched on is for parents and grandparents when you have the kids is making sure that they are developing a love of learning.
Right.
That is the biggest key, because this is the whole thing about books and banning books. Books is just a section of ideas. Right? And it's these ideas that influence behaviors and other things later.
Right.
And so when you are taking kids to the library, even if they're like 2 or 3, that is not too young.
Right.
To just be in a library or bookstore and pulling a book off the shelf or looking at the pictures on it and reading to them, even if you're reading the same book over and over.
Right.
Then your student is developing that they're kind of mimicking at first, and then they learn to read, and then that is your way to kind of making sure that they are getting what they need despite what may be happening in the classroom.
Right. Y'all remember when y'all were kids that y'all would pick up the little magazine or pick up the book that your mom or your dad may have been reading, and then you going through it and you're saying la la, and you're making up words or you're repeating bits and pieces what you've heard them say.
Yes.
It's the same thing, but it starts to train them and get them used to, oh, I like doing this. I like to read. I like to write. I like to, right? So even when you take the piece of paper and give them a crayon or a pencil and they're just writing and, doodling and stuff, even when they don't know how to spell yet, that starts to form them. Right. So, and I call it, a war on education. That's what I call it right now. That's me speaking, Rochelle. That is so fundamental. Take 15 minutes out your day. If it's before they go to bed, before y'all have dinner, before they go off to school, something, and be able to, hey, what did y'all learn yesterday? What did you learn today? How did that make you feel? Well, I remember learning that in school. Did they tell you about such and such? So that you have an embarkment with them where they have a way to come in and y'all have a communication going on. So that's the easiest way that you end up knowing if they're staying up on their education, if they're being taught what they need to be taught. If you don't feel that they're getting everything, and I know some people have that mind frame, well, that's what they go to school for. School gives you the basic knowledge. Home helps you grow it. to me, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
Home helps you grow it, right? Because they have them 8 hours a day, you have them the rest of the time. And I also still feel like you don't want anybody else influencing your children that may not be in a positive way, or they're slacking on what they're telling them. You want them to know everything, that when they get out in that real world, that they know what they're looking at. So she's a former history teacher. So if she's talking about teaching, say, the civil rights movement and how it came about and what started and what first happened, when they get home and they have that conversation with you, that came about because this is why we have now this day. This is why we're able to do this. If it's something about the migrant workers and farmers and Cesar Chavez, then you say, hey, this, and this, and that's why that's this. And this is why they celebrate Cesar Chavez Day. You start connecting the dots for them so they can say, oh, okay, yeah, okay, I got it now. And then they're getting all sides, right? They're getting it from the community, they're getting it at school, they're getting it in the household. It keeps them thriving, right? And I want to ask that parents really pay attention, especially in this time, that you make sure, because they are gutting the Department of Education, they're cutting our funds to education. And again, this is my channel and I'm talking. Thank you for being here, but these are coming out of these words are getting ready to come out my mouth. So if any negative comments come about, direct them to me. I am telling y'all, this is truly a case of, if they can dumb us down, that's how you make worker bees. If they're getting rid of all these other people, who do they think is going to work? And it's the more if they don't put it into our education system, if they're not showing us how we can strive, what all of the things that we can do, your proper writing, reading and arithmetic, you won't have the know-how to be able to succeed. This is not just simply about race. It's a part of it. This is truly about the have and the have-nots. And they have to have somebody working in those slots. And then that's how you end up getting pennies on the dollar. Because you don't think they're not going to cut your pay if you're not educated enough. See, as long as you're educated enough, either if you decide to go to a technical school, get an associate's, get a bachelor's or whatever, you don't have to stay here. You can go worldwide and take that and earn your money. But if they dumb you down so bad and you don't know the difference, they got you where they want you. And education isn't my thing. I'm a business major. But I can tell you that that's what makes it harder for our kids as they get older. If you don't know what's going on and you can't piece it together with what's the word I'm looking for? Comprehension. If you can't comprehend it, you won't see it happening. And that's what they're doing. People aren't grasping all the depths of what's going on. If they get rid of education or the Department of Education, that takes a big chunk out of what you're able to do in your life to support you and your family. And that's where they get you. Go ahead.
Okay. I just kind of want to add to that. I do see a war on education has been happening for some time. I mean, we see Project 2025 was being developed since the 80s.
Right.
And so they've been playing a long range game, and I do believe it's more class warfare. I think racism is a part of it,
right,
but that is only so that the pieces are kind of at war with each other,
right,
and they're not paying attention that it's really based on class,
right,
and wealth. And I will say, it's very important that parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, really the church play a part in making sure that the kids in the community are being educated.
Right.
I will say there are a lot of hardworking teachers who do
Oh yeah.
still get out there and go and give every day. There are a lot of teachers that love teaching. I love my kids. And there are a lot of teachers. There is the faction
Right.
in any place.
Right.
They're probably
That's
at
in
your
your
work. They're probably in
Yeah.
your work. They're in your hospital. They're everywhere.
Right.
So I want to make sure that we know that there are a lot of teachers that are in the trenches
For your kids.
for your kids.
Yes.
And they are coming in early. They are staying late. They have snacks in the drawer for your kids. So there is a large group that are still doing that, and they get tired, and sometimes they feel unappreciated. I will tell you that. So get involved in your PTA.
Yes.
And
go to the parent teacher conferences.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go to the school board hearings, the meetings and stuff.
Yeah. But let those teachers know that, hey, we appreciate that you're in there fighting for our kids, because sometimes you can you can get it from the top down. You can get it from sometimes parents in, or just struggling with a little apathy with kids sometimes too. So that's why I think the love of learning is important. So I will say, the best thing that you can do for your kids, especially when you're young, you're excited
Right.
about going to school. You may have your crayons and your little backpack and your new school clothes, and you're ready to
Right.
go and you're excited. And then about like maybe 4th or 5th grade, maybe you're not so excited about going to school. And then 6th grade, God bless middle school teachers. They should get paid more than anybody. But that is a hard part to kind of keep kids engaged.
Right.
But if they are, engaged with learning on books that they like to read, if they like, some kids are really naturally good at math, and sometimes they can do things faster than the class, and then they get bored.
Right.
And then they kind of, your mind wanders. I would say, like, have little packets of math games or whatever that they can do when they finish their work. But the bottom line is I believe that parents, the family, and churches are going to have to help supplement,
Oh yeah.
like, with literacy initiatives, because the one skill you really need to know to be able to succeed in taking any tests, they're still going to be taking state tests, even if they get rid of these Department of Education, they're still going to be taking these things, is the ability to comprehend what they're reading and then respond. That's critical thinking. So comprehension and critical thinking, and a lot of that comes from reading and writing. So I think just doing that at home, for sure.
I was just thinking when you said that about comprehension and critical thinking, I said that's what some people are lacking.
Clearly.
That is definitely what some people are lacking, and that's why we probably are in this situation. But I'm sorry. But now let's move to things that I know you were talking about, possibly getting churches involved, grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends,
Right.
to try to help and build a community to help the kid make it to the next level. What other kind of approach can parents take with school administrators if they have concerns that the teachers' bias or non-teaching factors may be affecting the kids? And what can they do?
I would say, well, first, you always want to go through the protocol or the chain, right? So if there's an issue in the classroom, talk to the teacher first,
Okay.
because it truly may be a misunderstanding.
All right.
And once you start talking to the teacher, then you understand. Then that can prevent further issues down the road. So understanding is key first. If you feel like you're not getting sufficient answers with the teacher, and there continues to be an issue, then I would say meet with that teacher and an administrator. That way the administrator can listen to the sides and maybe try and help mediate what's going on. If possible, be involved with the parent-teacher organizations. Know what's happening in your schools. Know what's coming down the pike, and get to know the teachers in the building a little bit. That's what I would say.
Okay.
And then, hopefully, things are not that bad that you have to speak at board meetings.
Right.
But be aware of what's happening at the board meetings. But yeah, I would start with those increments.
Okay. So, those are the questions I have for that. I do want to also put in my suggestions as far as if you also start seeing that there's a ongoing concern where you feel that your child isn't getting the best for them education wise. It's a lot of, maybe y'all could, during COVID, prime example. I know here in Texas, people created pods, and older teachers that have retired and stuff came out of retirement, and they did teaching in the garages and stuff so the kids could still have a way to go to school. And they're pressing and pushing this whole charter thing and vouchers for this charter thing. Now, more than likely, the average person isn't going to be able to afford that charter system and those vouchers. But homeschooling is an option. I know everybody got to go to work, but there is, maybe as a community, that could be extra for that retired school teacher or something like that, or look online for those online schools. You have to make sure, and even if your kids, if they still have it in public schools, please, if your child is saying to you, I think there's something wrong here, I think there's an issue here, I'm having a problem with this, take time out your day to call that teacher or go by that school to find out, why isn't your child grasping this? Where are they lacking at? What do they need? And you see for yourself, because either you're going to be able to tell that educator got it or they don't. Because when people start talking around you versus talking with you to get some game plan together, if they have your child's best interest at heart. This is the time that you have to make sure that they're doing everything for your child as much as possible. And sometimes it just take a parent coming up there one good time to show that, oh, she's serious. She caring about her child's education. For them to be like, okay, we know we can't pull that with her. We can't pull it. Sometimes it does just take that. And we've all experienced that, oh, we didn't even know. And then she coming here now, why isn't he learning this, and this? And why didn't he have this? And why y'all didn't send him home with something? That they'd be like, oh, she's one of them parents. Let me stop. Or he's one of those fathers. Or you understand what I'm saying? That squashes stuff immediately. When you show up there to be like, well, I've been wondering why they haven't had extra activity, or why haven't they had homework, or why is he not grasping this? Is there something we could be doing? When they see that you're showing interest and you're literally taking that time out to pay attention what's going on with them, sometimes they back up. Because then they know somebody's watching them. And this is a time for everybody in this realm that we all come together and be like, it take a village. That's when you get in on it. You having problems over there? Is that same teacher doing that over there? Or what are they learning over at that school district? why? Hey, are you learning that at that school district? And if that's not going on, you may need to ask somebody, can I borrow your address? You go with your child. I know I can't borrow an address. That's illegal, ain't it? It ain't the same when we was growing up that, you could use your grandmama's address and go to school. Ain't the same. That ain't the same no more. But I'm just saying, maybe they getting rid of magnet programs too, I think.
In some places.
Yeah.
There are some places where there may be some good charter schools. There may be some good magnet schools, but there's still some good local schools.
Oh yeah,
there are, and I will say that the majority of the teachers in the building are going to probably be pretty good teachers.
Oh yeah,
but there are going to be some that are just not going to be great teachers, and that may not have anything to do with a political ideology. They just may not be a great teacher. And I think all of us have had at least one or two of those in our educational career. I just think that as parents and guardians that we have to be aware of what's happening in the school. Do reach out to the teacher, let them know, hey, I am very invested in my child's education. I want to make sure that they have what they need. If you feel like my child is falling behind, please know that you can email me and let me know, and maybe give me suggestions on how I can help him or her at home. I think that is a good place to kind of build a partnership with the school. I think we want to try and build a partnership first and to establish a relationship, but definitely know that I think when you said it takes a village, that's right. It takes a village, like I said, not just mom and dad, but, grandparents can help, hey, I have the kids, the weekend, maybe we'll go to the library for a little bit, or we'll go to the bookstore and I'll let you get a book, and then we'll go to, make it an evening or an outing. Just so that they get used to reading and learning and keeping that. Because that is what's building the critical thinking skills. That's what's building the comprehension skills. And those ideas of getting ideas from different books that are synthesizing and making new ideas. And your kids will be much better prepared for what's coming down the road. And I will say this. In doing that, you're building confidence in your kids.
Yes.
And that is so important. I see a lot of kids at the high school level who lack confidence in their ability to read, in their ability to write. And, I had a tested subject. So they already had the idea that they were going to fail because they failed that test at the 8th grade level. And confidence goes a long way.
Yes.
So I spent just as much time that entire year building them up with confidence as I did in getting them ready for the test. And I had a pretty high pass rate. I was number 1 in the district when I left, at 95% at the end of the year. So, confidence, comprehension, critical thinking. Our children need that, and we have to have that support at home.
Yes. So I actually thank you for coming to talk about this with me. And for the people out there, again, I'm going to ask that you take at least 15 to 20 minutes out y'all's day and talk over with your children what they learned that day, to give you a synopsis of what they got out of that class or that subject. And this is back to y'all don't remember when y'all were kids and your mama was teaching you, or your brother, or whoever was teaching you how to count money, so that you learn how to count money, or teaching you multiplication. Like my brother taught me my multiplication tables when I was like 6 years old. I still remember that. And what he learned at school, my brother was 8 years older, she's 4 years older. So what they would come home and show me what they learned in school. And that's all about repetition too. So if they have big brothers and big sisters, get them in on it and have them start early. So when he was in the third grade learning multiplication and I was like 4 and 5, he could be like 2 times 2 and 4 times 4. And he would teach me like that, and then he would bring me home like, y'all remember they used to have the 3-cent candies or whatever. He'd bring me home a piece of bubble gum if he saw that I got the numbers right or something right. And so you make a game out of it. You make it where it's a reward system. And it's not bad about a reward system because it also helps with retaining it, especially when they're in a young enough age where, it doesn't have to be anything expensive. It could be a pencil. Me, I used to like to create them big fat pencils that they used to keep as kids for school. Just get your kids involved and have that conversation with them while you're making breakfast for them in the morning or while they're packing their lunches or whatever. Make sure you're getting 10 minutes or 15 minutes in with them, that you're finding out what they're doing in school so that you know that they're working on the right path. And again, I thank you, Annalise, for taking the time to join the Simply Slay Life podcast with me today so we could talk about this. And I hope to see y'all soon. If you have any suggestions or you have any comments, please leave them in the section below. And if you actually like this, please subscribe, hit the like button and the notification bell. Y'all have a great day. Thank you for watching the Simply Slay Life podcast, and I'll see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.